Thanks for having me, you guys. It's pretty nice to be back. And, again, thanks, Bob, for the great introduction. I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's get to it. I've got a lot of slides here. I'm hoping we can get through them. Today's talk is about boundaries. So it's titled Out of Bounds and Out of Ideas. So, as mentioned, I'm a partner of other projects. Our office is in downtown Los Angeles, also teach. And we engage and work through kind of an ever-changing and ever-present social, economic, and natural environments. We create a dialogue with physical forms and spaces, and then we consider context, function, and effects through this work. The focus of the work really revolves around ideas, attitudes, and strategies. These are regarding typology, organizational models, fields and aggregations, and a preference for the primitive over the complex. And the studio's belief is that these physical forms, these artifacts, have the ability to offer society a place, a sense of place, fascination, and a new way of kind of experiencing the world. So let's get to it. You know, sometimes you look at your work and you kind of don't know where ideas come from. They just sort of come out of the work and they stare you blankly in the face. And so it's something I've been kind of wrestling with since I left Morphosis. Ideas that pop up in my work, and I see kind of links back to some of the projects that I've worked on. And I think today I want to talk about boundaries. And so this lecture is called Out of Bounds, and we'll talk about my work kind of through the context of previous work at Morphosis, and also through the lens of boundaries. So just kind of an overview of the lecture. I'm going to talk about former Morphosis projects, two of which were mentioned by Bob, Far and Casablanca Tower. And I'm going to share some ideas and strategies with you guys, talk about a few past projects, and current work we're working on. This clicker is awesome. So this is kind of the scale when I was in Morphosis. The map's not really showing up well, but basically it's map of the world. This is the scale at which I kind of viewed architecture at the time. All the red dots signify projects or buildings that we were working on, and then the little dashed lines signify places that I lived to work on projects. So in many ways, it's kind of a superficial view of architecture. We're looking at skylines, we're looking at cities, urban forms, and comparing notes in kind of a global fashion. Since kind of starting my own practice, though, that path has really shrank. It's also kind of a way of thinking about boundaries, but also I think going back through the work of Morphosis has been a way for me to kind of contextualize some of the ideas that I've been working through. So this is Caltrans, a project I did not work on, but it talks about boundary in the sense of the folding of skin. Boundary here is kind of an elusive thing in Morphosis. The building here is actually not all the foldy stuff you see. It's actually a kind of a simple block behind it. So the boundary here is kind of diffused through perforated metal skin. This and its cousin, the San Francisco Federal Tower, again, it's diffused through the use of shrouded skins that fold and change the actual appearance of the real shape of the interior space. And these kind of exhaustive forms, or exhaustive folds, are even more amplified by all the catwalks and superstructures and tertiary structures that kind of go on behind it. So it's kind of a big theatric, game of theatrics. This is kind of the East Coast cousin, the Cooper Union. And here, boundary may be described through multiple systems that entangle themselves on one another and kind of resolve in strange and very architecturally intense ways through form and space. So here's the making trim of the Cooper Union, and that's kind of shrouding its this wrapper, and then that's a stair that kind of cuts through both the wall and also the second liner. This is a project I did work on at the end of my tenure at Morphosis, and I also worked in kind of final stages of this project. boundary can be talked about in terms of kind of forms wrestling within inside other forms, creating kind of different boundaries of spaces, interstitial spaces, an outside that can be described through an outside or an outside inside, an inside outside, an inside inside. So there's all these layers of what we say boundary kind of exists. Boundary here can also be discussed in terms of overlapping programmatic spaces, overlapping circulations, and the hope to kind of have like a chance encounter or new ways of kind of experiencing space and maybe social spaces. Going back to San Francisco Federal, this was also a way of thinking about boundary but through programming. So the skip-stop elevator actually lets it stops in kind of the mid-floor, and you have to walk either down or up to access the floor. So the idea is that people that would normally cross paths now cross paths. There's also a way of making people healthier by actually forcing them to walk inside the elevator. Okay, so this was a tower that I was basically thrown in the deep end on when I first started at Northeast. I was about 27, and I was given kind of the keys to a large space inside of it, the atrium space. It was a competition. I came in right on the tail end of the competition, and then 2 months later we found it won. It's located just outside of Paris, in a little, well, not little, but it's called La Défense. And yeah, there, this pointer is amazing. So here's La Défense. It's kind of like a social business district outside of Paris, because Paris hates towers, just so everyone is very clear. There's only one little tower in Paris, and since then the towers have been kind of regulated to go outside of Paris. But what's interesting is going back to the idea of boundary. We not only have the boundary of the city, right, but we also have the idea of the boundary of scale. So this big blue dot is for far, and then thinking about how it relates in this context through monuments. So monuments in an economic sense, monument in kind of a cultural sense. And this is the site, and if you're scratching your head going, what the hell, where's the site? We did that as well. The site is actually this little sliver here, and there's another little chunk here where we have some kind of structure that touches down. The tower is about 70 stories. It's 300 meters tall, and the client owns this whole derby shell, which is a concrete shell that housed a bunch of their kind of. They were a big retail developer, so just housed a lot of marketplaces, food courts, kind of a shopping mall, but also offices and things like that. Underneath the plaza is a big kind of metro stop, regional train stop as well, and then back here you have kind of like a freeway of sorts, and then there's a whole other little network of roads and little service streets underneath. And you can see the plaza here. This is La Défense Plaza. It's about 4 stories. There's 1 story there, there's 1 story there, and it keeps going down. And this is kind of the original height of that. And it's just built up over the years, kind of in Colorado fashion. Anyway, and this is a bridge connecting 2 cities. So La Défense kind of ends here, and this is Au revoir over here. This bridge has remained even during construction, which we're trying to build a tower over it. We'll get to that in a second. Here's a shot of that kind of site again, which is kind of an on-site consisting of all these different, again, boundaries. These are some early study models. The idea, the concept of the tower was really to create a form that was a series of fragments in urban forms, and also Tom was interested in kind of turning the typical typology of the tower literally on its head by flattening the top sections of the building, so you would essentially make it more kind of egalitarian tower by allowing a lot more views and a lot more kind of rentable space at the top. So typically you have smaller floor plates and smaller offices you go to CEOs, but this is egalitarian in the sense that we would have more of that at the top. Let's say it's hopeful more workers at the top. The problem with that is wind loads. Since we were only tying the building down to kind of 3 points, we had was showing you earlier, and this is the way the tower lays out. So this is the main body of the tower. There's another little piece over here called the piece, and then there's another little piece over here called the mid-rise, and then this is more or less like staging circulation. Again, this is really weird because we could put our cores all the way down to the actual plaza because of that bridge, because of all the infrastructure. So the way you actually enter the tower is you either come through, and this is why we actually want a competition, bringing circulation through the marketplace and into this pavilion, or up from the train station below. So the reason we kind of wanted though is we tied together all these different urban fragments into one cohesive whole. So this piece, again, brings everybody in, and then you do like a 90-second escalator ride, which is a pretty long escalator ride, into the actual tower. These are those fragments. This is originally kind of set up for trading floors, and it changed to normal kind of normative tower over time. These where we house a lot of mechanical cafeterias, and then here's that kind of pavilion piece where everybody kind of has to circulate through. Nothing could be taller than the Eiffel Tower, so while this looks massive in context, it's not really that big. And this is kind of an idea of how that circulation works. Go through the Connect, up through those escalators, and then you can go to 2 different floors, and that's really because of the way the elevatoring system is set up. It's actually a destination-based system, and there's 2 cabs per elevator core. So, meaning you can have 1 kind of cab serve the top floors and 1 cab serve the bottom floors. So it's a very kind of efficient use of energy, but also efficient use of elevator scheme. So the idea is you would kind of come in, and you would either go to lobby 1 or lobby 2, and you would press a button actually before doing so, and it would say go to lobby 1 or lobby 2, and then you would go up, you would hit your elevator, and it would kind of take you to your desired floor. And the reason again is because you're actually having 2 stacked cabs operating simultaneously. So once you push that button, it actually tells you, it knows which floor you're trying to go to. It'll direct you to the right elevator. Here's some urban form, or kind of how it plays out in urban form. This back is completely flattened by the edge of Courbevoie, or the edge of that road behind it. Here's that piece of called the mid-rise, or kind of a typical tower. And then the front, here's the pavilion. And then what you see beyond here are these kind of large pieces of structure landing down. And what's interesting about these is that they're only taking wind load. So this is a view from Paris. View from the Seine. That's in context. There's an axis that takes you all the way back to Paris, and that's the Grand Arch. And I think one thing to note about this building, going back to the idea of boundary, is this skirt. This was nicknamed the Pregnant Tower in Europe because of its big bulge here. So it's kind of a normal tower, and then it bulges out, right? But the skin here begins to kind of use all the different spaces. It begins to get into similar things that Caltrans or San Francisco Federal does. It begins to detach here. This is nicknamed the hair at the top, where it kind of diffuses the top crown, which is typically a spire or really defined kind of profile for skyline. And then at the bottom, it begins to diffuse again, kind of different forms begin to pull out. That's that giant hole capacity to bring the core down to the plaza level. Easy to constrain. So this is the basement. By the way, there's no parking in this whole tower, which is also a bit of an anomaly. So again, you have a road that cuts to the middle of the building. Here are little chunks of core that kind of land here and here. You're stacking up. There's the plaza level there. There's the core again. There's a couple columns that we just saw. Coming on up, those are those giant transfer beams that are holding the core up. This is that piece, mostly mechanical and service. And then our tower starts looking a little bit more normal, we call it normal, but here's that lobby space, and then here's that kind of mid-rise piece. There's our giant core, and then here's this piece. I mean, in many ways, it resembles kind of an urban fragment. There's nothing to me of look at this besides the core that starts to speak of towerness. So it has a really kind of unusual shape. Beyond that, this whole piece is gutted, and this becomes an atrium space, which is about a 20-story space. And it's gutted because of light regulations by code in France stipulate that nothing beyond 9 meters is rentable. So basically, if we don't have light penetration back to here, we can't rent it in the space, which we'll kind of see later. So we had to basically gut all this. The reason we had this big bulge in the first place was all the wind load. So it's really kind of, we're tiptoeing around trying to find structural touchdown points. So it's really, a lot of it was dictated by the site and context, the site constraints. That's the atrium space. And just for reference, if you guys have been to San Francisco Federal, it fits inside here. It's a giant space, and this is again going back to the idea of you come in, you're either going to go behind this kind of screen or go up to the lobby 2 area. I also want to point out, going back to the idea of boundary, that this whole section is just totally ridiculous. It has 7 layers of different forms. You have like your interior curtain wall. This is unconditioned space. You have your curtain wall that's keeping the tower insulated. Then you have this kind of scrim made out of fiber cement panels. And you have struts that are coming across, and they're tying into a diving structure. These struts are taking off wind load. And you have this lacy bit, also a fiber cement board. And then beyond that, which you don't see because it's all blown out, is the diving structure, another curtain wall, and then finally the metal skin. Okay, so back to the plans, you can kind of see those struts now coming across, tying back into this superstructure. And as we go up, it becomes a little bit more normal service tower. Top, I've got a restaurant up there, and an outdoor kind of viewing platform. And that's all the kind of bare pieces, kind of using the top ground, skin. That's a full Monty. This is that back piece. It's all just plain curtain wall. Here's the front, the kind of metal skin. That atrium piece again. So those are all the elements to think about the atrium. It's actually missing a few: structure, other curtain wall, and skin. Okay, so within this context of designing the tower, I think one thing to point out is that we originally started using, the office at the time was using MicroStation, which had a component to it called generative components, which was like a parametric software. It crashed every time this tower went into design because it was just too much information, it was too big. So essentially, the whole structure of the office was a pretty straightforward, or well, it was a complicated piece, but it was pretty straightforward how it was designed. Each little panel was packed with a little script that told it to rotate based on azimuth and altitude, so that you can kind of create the maximum shading coefficiency per panel. And then certain panels were given free rein to produce kind of this striative effect. And then that's what you see as kind of the data landscape. And then as we progressed through the project, we kept kind of creating new families, or let's say creating less families, trying to rationalize the curtain wall and also on the skin. So you can see we started out with this really complicated diagrid and triangular glazing pattern. And as we went through, this is the months, by the way, Brenda. So from March 2007 to May 2008, we got a lot simpler. Kind of the skin now, going through the same process. Then we did some mock-ups in-house. These are pretty rough. This is called GKD. It's a stainless steel woven mesh. We later found out it does nothing for shading. So this one is looking at the ball joint, connecting all this skin back to the catwalks. We did some in-house mock-ups. And then this is looking at wind, kind of like the way the wind works with the tower. So doing a full, I think this thing's 5 feet tall, put it in a wind tunnel and see kind of real physical effects of it. And we did the same thing with skin, this time blowing rain and actually freezing it to see how heavy it was and how much it was going to accumulate, potentially falling off. And if it falls off, it could damage somebody or something on the ground. So those are all items we kind of tested. This is a full-scale mock-up. Now we're looking at the diffusion of that curtain wall. Here's our catwalks, curtain wall, and this is the kind of full-scale mock-up of that skin. So again, I think this is just this project really for me packed a lot of information into a short period of time. I actually worked on this for 5 years, and then it died. The final nail in the coffin was like 2014. It lumbered in financial problems, there being a crisis, and things like this. But I went from being kind of just a cog in the wheel on this project to being senior designer, seeing over all the PE and code and client changes over the course of 5 years. So it was kind of terrifying because I was super young, but it was also kind of amazing experience. This next project was run out of the New York office. It's located in an area called Tampa, which is an old airport in Casablanca. It was leveled, and then it's going to be kind of a simple business district. We ran this project out of the New York office. Tom, at the time, thought it was a really great idea to put me on 2 competitions at once and cut our team in half. So it's me and he entered us late into this one, which was just kind of amazing. We were like, we're not going to win because we couldn't produce stuff fast enough. We have 4 or 5 weeks to produce this concept. So our conceptual narrative was really, really dumb. We were looking at the way to address. We had no context, so we're like, okay, let's invent something here with the typology of a tower. So we took our best friend, the Chrysler Building, which has one of my favorite spires in New York City, and thought, what if we just rotated it and it became the base? So here we're kind of looking at the spire of Chrysler, and then the profile of that shape, and then we're kind of matching it. This is the final profile of our tower. But we're literally thinking about, okay, what kind of architectural kind of result happens when you literally flip it on its head? The kind of intensity that this may create around the lobby, or let's say the plaza, could be quite significant. You could almost argue that this kind of intensity is much greater than something like this, which is typical of towers, how they kind of spread out. They're both spreading their load, but they're also spreading their elevator cores. And there's a really straightforward reason why this happens, as structure and circulation. But we were dumb enough to continue doing it. So we marched on through, and here you kind of see the bottom of the Chrysler building. Here's the bottom of ours. Imagine this kind of profiling. So again, this is a real basic diagram of that kind of happening, flipping it around and then imagining the new kind of form emerging in place. Here we're playing nice with New York City. These are some early study models. Rocking Towers, New York Towers. This is in context. So again, this kind of looks like Los Angeles. It could be anywhere really. And that was a little bit of our kind of reasoning for doing this view, was that there was nothing else to relate to. So let's attack the typology. So again, this is a big boulevard here. I think there's a metro line. There's plans here, and this is kind of top view of the tower. These are some circulation diagrams. Again, it was all very complicated in terms of how you actually get in the building. There was all the different security features of this type of building in its context. Mandated that we just had multiple ways that you could access the lobby from the parking. There's also multiple security accesses for the different types of inhabitants. These are just looking at the morphology of the floor plate. It stacks up different systems. We had this crown was it was a double glass or double curved wall system. The outside had kind of a fritted solar frit on it, and with kind of a louver vent system. And then these are typical like curved walls, and then we had this concrete brise-soleil down the shading coefficient, pretty high shading coefficient, and then this is the base kind of crown. We had a really straightforward parking structure down here. Again, the boundary condition of the skin starts to kind of peel away, creating a differentiation between kind of jewel-like form of the top and crown, or the crown and base, and the skin beyond. That's those systems stacking up. Concrete brise-soleil penetration, and that's the bottom, or this is the top double curtain wall here. Again, really dumb scheme. We have our parking. And then this is kind of a drastic shift in tower typology. This is the main lobby space coming through. Access parking behind here. This is all service. And then mechanical on the side. We had to pack a lot of mechanical into the basement just because of we couldn't really fit anything at the top. And we had more like kind of social amenities around the base of the building, so shared conference rooms and things like that. And these are just looking at typical tower layouts. So as we go up, it's a much more straightforward typical tower. And then here's the ground again. So obviously, way back to the collision of different forms of different systems. This is kind of also playing into some of those concepts I noted. This is the lobby view as you come through, has the big jewel piece. That's the atrium space. There's multiple liners here as well. There's kind of the big glass chunk, and then beyond it is a whole articulated interior, and then beyond that's the elevator core. That lobby space again. That's a kind of a social stair connecting up some of those conference rooms that we saw in the plan earlier. That's the top conference room. That's that fritted photovoltaic skin, or double curtain wall. And this is the context. And what would be the context? Okay, so I founded Weather with my partner / wife in maybe 2012. We're not totally sure. We were in New York at the time. Weather was still working for companies, and we kind of reached a point where we were tired of working on really big projects because you never feel like you resolve them. They're just you're constantly kind of feeding the beast. You're just playing catch up basically. So we resolved that we were going to work on like just going to read through these. Develop artifacts, spaces, places, buildings, and cities that have cultural resonance and afford space to play. Architecture should challenge new forms using typologies, organizational models, and combinatorial design. Obviously, that's some of the things we just talked about. And then this is kind of new stuff that we've been looking into, developing methodologies for problems associated with the following: the incomplete, non-compositions, the combinatorial, boundary diffusion, aggregation, seriality, sameness, and specificity. Conceiving of architecture, so there's a typo there. Sorry about that. Conceiving of architecture through its parts, tectonic, typal, elements, etc. Assume the current edition of architecture is an averaging of ideologies, therefore anything goes. I'm going to add a sixth one after last week, which is architecture is a political act, however you like it or not. So that should be up here. All right, so that was my map, right? At Marxist and my partners. This is our map now of Los Angeles. This is our little project. That little blue dot is our house. So we really shrunk in kind of the way we look at the city, the way we kind of think about architecture. And you know, I'd like to say this is by choice, but obviously we're also a very small office. It's not like we're building towers now. So let's get into some of this work. So office number one. This was a spec office we did for an emerging kind of technology company, and it was really starting with typology. We looked at what historical typologies there were, so kind of the closed office, and then we looked at the cubicle, and we looked at the open office. And everybody wants the open office, right? No matter if you're a creative office or not, the open office is like a go-to cool thing. So we were kind of questioning that. We were really critical and saying, why open office? So in looking at this, we began to think about the city. The city is full of a diverse set of spaces, a diverse set of kind of uses, and we're like, this is kind of a good model for the office. And we also like the idea of kind of shifting the scale. So again, really dumb idea. We took a walk, cut an avenue, put some buildings in there, and then we ended up with this kind of figure that became a desk. So this desk has some really interesting qualities. It doesn't work real well because there's this giant space in the middle. It's highly inefficient. It happens in a couple places. But what's kind of cool about it is that it starts creating these local, let's say, groups of people. And so open office, typically you think of it as like a collection of desks, a grid. Everybody's in the same floor. It's homogeneous. But here we're kind of using the figure of the desk, maybe to separate that a little bit. So we started looking at it in terms of these kind of groups that emerge. So looking at it in context of the office, we were thinking that, or hoping that it would kind of create a series of, let's say, like the city sameness, but also difference through the use of a kind of a skewed grid of different figures. Here we kind of have a diffused scrim wall in the middle, and then over here we have a much more typical kind of open office, some more flexible space. And then here we kind of play with the idea of closing down the office through actual sliding panels here, or pulling down this conference room rather through sliding panels, or kind of semi-open conditions. So in the renderings, we're kind of looking again at those are the chunks that are semi-private, private, open office. You have this kind of fusion between the two sides. And then again in the work, we're just playing with multiple systems. We have a kind of multiple diagonal grid at the top, playing off these kind of softer, billowy shapes of the desk. So again, coming back to kind of like non-compositions, like seeing what could and couldn't work, or there's some opposition that we play into for determining how to non-composition. So this is a studio we did not too long after that. Also unbuilt, was for Chris Cunningham. He's kind of a digital director, so this is going to be a crazy video. It's a play. Yeah, so I don't have audio here, but he was, he had an investor that wanted to help him develop an idea around a laser light show and then they can slide in. And then like the bulldog boyfriends be like, okay, I'm gonna go in, and then they like crash through. So we're constantly like fixing it throughout the night. But it was a design flaw on our part. We probably should have narrowed it just a little bit more to change your perception of the space. So we also added fog. We just wanted to play with kind of theatrics. So this is viewing through that slash. This is getting a piece of the bed in there. The bed also started playing as a character, kind of creating another figure. There's that one piece of black figure there. There's one lines. It's somewhat, I don't know, like, I think it was successful. You never know those things. Someone came up to me and was like, oh, your piece is all about sex. And we bed. I'm like, okay, yeah, it is. Absolutely. Whatever you see is what art is. So these are just some effects. Again, like clearly, Kate Gray's playing pretty hard here, and then always coming back to that narrative of kind of conflating perspectives, the pocket box, kind of pushing against us, seeing much beyond just this figure. They kind of get reflected in multiple ways. And then the material effects. This thing stops really hard against this reflective material. So these. This is a house we did for some friends of ours. It's a really cheap house. It's about a little under $150 a square foot. You would call this house, in typological terms, the modern mullet, because it is Spanish style up front and then modern box on the back. So some of the things we're interested in here are, again, the incomplete. We also played with kind of the slipping of boundaries. So this is a giant wall that opens up. It's about 14 feet wide. It slides along this wall. And then these walls are also playing space, trying to get them to kind of slip out of the boundary. And then this was open. This is kind of an open loft bedroom. And this is a space that seats down onto the kitchen area, all open there. And then this is really the only closed space beyond the bathroom and the ground floor. This is the top. We have kind of all operable skylights. Help flush it out. We had no AC. And then the exterior is kind of a rain screen, so we're helping to reduce heating. So this is it. We're trying, it's a very subtle project in many ways. We're kind of floating a box. We have a sliding scrim that comes back and forth here, and then pre-oriented the skin this way. But then we're kind of flushing out the windows with the patterning. But then we play with that datum by kind of slipping this piece. So the boundaries of all these different datums, and both in plan, but also kind of in elevation and section, we're hoping kind of all kind of slip past each other. This is another big optical steel window door. This guy slides back, and this is just a sweeper. And that's our modern mullet, right? It's our Spanish style up front, modern back, the back of the house. Side. And then really simple. Again, their stories that open up, flushing hot or cold air, hitting, and then these are optical skylights, passenger stack, the window here. So some things align with datums, others don't. That's kind of the game. Our toilet axle here, just showing how it's consistent. So we actually didn't do any ceilings. We kept a lot of the wood on the inside exposed, playing with that real literal idea of incomplete, in the sense that you started seeing separate systems kind of throughout the house. And that's the final piece. It's still under construction. So that's that big slider that kind of goes this way, slides all the way over. And then this big wall is one of those walls we saw on the plan. Just kind of play again, the slippage of all the different planes. Interior photos. I wish we could have kept it like this. Just like I like this pattern on the drywall. problem because we're all facing what's called the housing crisis. I don't know if I want to use the word crisis to scare anybody, but it's certainly a big problem. And it starts with problems like this. This was in 2017, July. California is ranked as 49 home ownership rates among states with less than 54% of the homes occupied by their owner. The state also finished dead last in overall affordability. Prices in Los Angeles County rising 6.5% for last year. Herb also goes on to say California homeowners spend the highest amount of annual income, 25.4% on housing. That's not even LA. But renters in Los Angeles spend on average 36% or more of their income on for housing, which is just insane. I mean, I've been to the city in 2003. It was not like this. I mean, there was at least like pockets in East LA for students. Furthermore, the average Angelino, the prospect of owning a home is starting to look more like preposterous fantasy. I couldn't agree more. Starter homes beginning at $459, $700 grand, and those prices are out of reach for many buyers, and very few of them are near the city center, and we all know that's not going to happen on the west side. So you need to be making about 90 grand to afford a median house in LA right now. And there's a lot of stuff that's kind of contributed to this. We've done a bunch of research. I can't present it all to you today, but I'm just going to kind of just point out a few things. So demand drives high housing costs. California is building too little, as you saw with that map earlier. They're building too little in coastal communities, and most of that is pushback from the communities themselves, not necessarily any kind of zoning coming down from the actual city. And then spillover demand to live on the coast affects housing costs in inland California. So, we're out here in Cal Poly, out in Pomona. Congestion's terrible, right? Traffic problems, pollution. Everybody wants to go downtown, so you have to drive an hour. I mean, all those things are results of these things, right? We just keep pushing further out. And it's because we don't want to densify in our backyards. I think the ballot measure was just passed for Santa Monica. Hopefully we change some of this stuff. Okay, so building costs increases housing costs. Building costs are higher in California. Sites and cost of land. 3 factors determine developers' cost to build housing: labor, materials, government fees. All 3 components are higher in California than the rest of the country. This is from the Legislative Analysis Office 2015. It's kind of a sneak point out of the city, so they're very aware of these things. So not to kind of beat that horse, but change in population in the 1980s, 2010, grown a lot. We've also grown a lot of housing in the past few years, but not nearly enough. Already had a deficit in the 80s. It's going to have a deficit, and it's further projected that deficit is going to continue. We're just simply not building enough right now to either fill a deficit or to kind of fill the projected needed housing. So this is just looking at that. Like this isn't even happening. So we're just way behind. And then on top of it, in 2003, here's that map I mentioned earlier, where the city's kind of looking at specific sites to locate for affordable homes. And here's some projected metro lines that are kind of coming through. Here's the LA River. This is Full Heights, by the way, so this is like, I always get confused over here because there's like 5 freeways that intersect each other. So this is the LA River. I think this is, I can't, I'm actually unoriented right now. I think this is in there. And then kind of zooming in on some of those slices, that's for these are two 50 by 100 lots. This is kind of a weird shaped one. This is the massive lot. This is another little massive lot. I'll just say, like, we're looking at a single family home, but one in which one model could sort of be flexible and be able to take on different scale, different site conditions, different shapes. So a few immortal references came from history, regardless of track housing. The main thing that Gregory did here was he was never invited to be part of the case study program, but he was probably the most successful out of that era in terms of actually creating that democratic home that was modernist in feel and modernist in living. But the reason we're looking at this study is really the landscaping is quite interesting because it's done by Garrett Ecklo. And Garrett was interested in continuous communities of landscape. So it's not a single backyard, it's continuous. So everybody can have, like, you can think of this space as much more rich with social and economic kind of crossovers there. The other thing we started looking at is the idea of flexibility. So Herman Hertzberger, he talks about valuing housing as a half house or a half product. And the idea here is you have kind of a module, and within that module it's completely flexible. So like you buy like a shell, and then you put up your own walls and you kind of subdivide it any way you kind of feel. And then he was, one other kind of aspect of Colorado is these different families that start to emerge out of all these different possible configurations. I really saw this kind of this flexible framework starting to emerge out of aggregates. And our last kind of precedent was an unbuilt project by Kahn called the Goldenberg House. And it was interesting for a few reasons. One of them being the way in which he talked about this house was talking about it in terms of the society of rooms. So while each room is basically the same, they also have very particular specificity in the way the geometry kind of is laid out or the way they engage the courtyard. And so we were really interested in coming up with a single family home that engaged the courtyard typology, but one that had a kind of contiguous nature, a plan that wasn't a free plan, but was a series of rooms, kind of a society of rooms. We really like that as kind of an idea. So here we're kind of looking at the aggregate, a single little unit that would fit on the back of a truck. And here it is kind of as a shotgun, and then here it is as a double, right? And we can just imagine all the different aggregates. So we look at these and then kind of analyze them in terms of their qualities, what type of living spaces best suit different types of families, or which ones just simply work the best in terms of organization, bathroom, bedroom, or light access, etc. So we also are looking at the so much.